We're seeing trust in companies, education systems, and government at all-time lows, yet we're asking people to change while they're wearing those uniforms that they don't trust. And I think that's a huge problem. And I think that if we don't fix engagement, we're going to have a hard time transforming the company. We're not sitting here talking about prompt engineering and tuning large language models. We're talking about like humane aspects of what it is to work. Our issue at the moment isn't technical. Our biggest issue is people. And that's why I like to talk about AI as a mindset, not a technology. This isn't something they get trained on, and all of a sudden we're going to set them out there and they're like, oh, cool, we're ready. They actually need to FAFO when it comes to this stuff. If people don't have the agency to FAFO, they're probably going to find themselves on the way out.
Welcome back to the Meg and Amy Show. Thank you so much for the support for our show. Please do like and subscribe and add comments. Today we have Jason Averbook, one of the world's top 25 human capital consultants, and someone we know well from our shared PeopleSoft days. Jason is now senior partner and global leader of digital HR strategy at Mercer, driving their global AI strategy. His journey tells the story of digital HR itself, from co-founding Knowledge Infusion, one of the first digital HR firms, to building LeapGen through its acquisition by Mercer in 2023. With over 25 years guiding transformation, today we're exploring how forces are creating a fundamentally different kind of transformation, one that requires new leadership approaches and goes far beyond just adopting technology. Welcome, Jason.
Hi, guys. How are you? It is so nice to be with you. Finally.
Yes.
I just have to congratulate you on your show. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my episodic favorite shows to watch in the world. So congratulations.
So kind.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a little bit different climate where you are than where we are. We're seeing snow behind you.
That is snow in Minneapolis. It's not officially winter yet, but it is definitely winter.
Yeah.
So, we have about a good 8-10 inches on the ground. 6-7, no, 8-10. And, it's about 6-7 degrees. So, we're all good.
All right, Jason. So much is happening, and you've got your own podcast, and I just listened to your most recent episode, and you talked about very articulately 4 forces happening in our world right now. And I thought it would be great if we set kind of the context of this show around those 4 forces and how those are, very different or similar to other big changes we've had in the past, and where you see hope and opportunity.
Just really quickly, Amy and Meg, I'm so blessed to have the jobs that I do, because those forces just come from watching. And watching and learning from people like you guys, watching and learning from vendors, watching and learning from enterprise organizations. So, I'm kind of the reporter in a lot of those things. I love watching signals. Those 4 things I talked about are just a collection of signals that I'm seeing. So
yeah, I love that about you, Jason, that you're out and about and you're super curious. So you're always chatting with people, learning from them, and putting together, connecting all of the dots.
I don't know how else to do it, my friend. I don't know how else to do it.
I think it's also a little bit of your crystallized intelligence around having the benefit of seeing different waves of innovation and waves of change. So in those conversations, you are connecting ideas and concepts, I would say, that are a little bit more clear. You're able to make them more clear for everyone else because you've seen these patterns and you can kind of articulate what's different. So I think that is your gift.
All right. So how about if you share what these 4 forces are, and then we'll go from there.
How about you remind me of the 4 forces?
All right. So the first one is that engagement is slipping. The second is that jobs and skills are changing rapidly. The third is that we're failing the early career on-ramp. And fourth fourth is that AI is being pushed into unprepared organizations.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason I like to do that is because, it seems like every week there's another four.
Yeah.
And I literally just a few minutes ago recorded my podcast that's coming out tomorrow, and I talked about two things.
And are there new forces?
No, they're the same. But
okay.
that's the thing, is that they all tie together in such a unique way. But the engagement one is a really interesting one to me, you guys, and all four of those, even though they're independent, they all tie together. And when you start to think about that, engagement to me is so fascinating, because engagement means culture and engagement means trust. And we're dealing at a moment in time where change is probably, and we've all said this for a long time, even though, I think every time it just gets more, it's happening faster than it ever has, and probably than it ever maybe will. I think 2026 is going to be the biggest change that we've ever seen in HR. And because of that, this isn't something, the change that we're experiencing right now is not something that I'm going to call like COVID, where we had to just respond. We had to respond because our life depended on it, or whether we thought our life depended on it or did, we had to respond. We're in a moment in time where we should be treating this almost like a crisis, like COVID. But unfortunately, we don't have to respond. And we're watching people, based on their engagement levels in companies and their leaders, make those decisions as to, am I going to respond? Like, am I going to step up with agency? Am I really going to push this? Am I going to fight for this with my life? Like, guess what? If I don't get this, I quit. Or am I going to sit back and kind of wait for something? And, we'll pick on the snow for a second. I wrote something probably 9 months ago where I talked about people are either going to retire, like we do in Minnesota in the winter, or retire, like get out of the workplace. And I'm watching the same thing. I said this to a group of people last week, like, okay, you guys sound like you're closer to retiring than retiring. And right now, if people don't retire...
I just need to pause you, because Meg has only lived in California and Austin, so she may not get your...
Meg,
no, I absolutely... I read. I've heard of such a thing called snow tires. I've never actually experienced them.
So Meg, that's what you need. You need to put on new tires in order to stay relevant in the snowy world.
Or live somewhere with a more humane climate. But
yeah, but Amy, I truly think that we're seeing the struggle, where we're seeing engagement at all-time lows. We're seeing trust in companies, education systems, and government at all-time lows, yet we're asking people to change while they're wearing those uniforms that they don't trust. And I think that's a huge problem. And I think that if we don't fix engagement, we're going to have a hard time transforming the company.
All right, so we have a little bit of a contrarian position for you, Jason. And so a few months ago, we recorded an episode titled "Engagement is a Terrible Metric." So we disagree with
Actually,
you.
I said retention, but
sorry, retention.
No, but it is
right,
true. It is true, and I think Jason really put it pretty well, that the way that we're trying to measure engagement with an annual survey is not actually helping us in addressing what people need, because these things are coming much more quickly. And, taking a pulse every year right after you did a layoff is going to give you very different information about what people need. And you're probably not even asking them the right questions to help them feel empowered in this moment.
I mean, that's placebo engagement.
Right.
That's placebo engagement.
So our point was more that, like, you could be engaged, but doing negative work. You could be engaged and you could be, actually destructive to the organization. So it's like, we need people to buy in. We need people to believe and to be co-creators in the future, right?
Yeah, and Amy, you're exactly right. And by the way, when I talk about engagement, I talk about real-time engagement. I don't talk about that. I mean, I try to remind people all the time that the reason we do engagement once a year or once every 2 years was because the only way we could measure engagement back in those days, and I hate that measure anyway, was because it was the mail. I sent out a survey in the mail, and guess what? I would get it back. It would take me 6 months to put it together. I would anonymize it, give it back to a manager, and the manager would say, "WTF? What am I supposed to do with this?"
Right.
And therefore nothing would happen. When I talk about engagement, I talk about real-time sentiment analysis and real-time employee listening. And that's where I'm talking about that's very low right now.
I was just giving you a hard time.
No, it's good. No, because I truly believe that, I mean, the biggest word is trust, you guys. And if people don't trust the company, like, hey, guess what? You can put your data in a GPT or a large language model and it's going to be safe. And your client data is going to be safe, or we're not going to say another salesperson can see it and they're going to steal the client from you. Like, those are the types of things that are happening on the ground right now in organizations where people don't trust. And guess what? HR sends out an email that says, hey, go try this new tool. No one wants to get an email from HR, A. B, no one trusts HR. And then all of a sudden what happens? People don't adopt AI. And then we say, 95% of AI projects are failing. You know what I mean? And it's a much bigger spider web.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what we're seeing is a lot of, AI being pushed to, leaders, line level leaders, employees, et cetera. And they are scared and they also don't have time. They don't have time to figure things out and they're scared. So there really has to be a reckoning of that to, make them co-creators and to give them the time to be clear about, well, you can stop doing this and make time to do this and let's co-create it together. Right?
Exactly. And I beautifully said, Amy. And I think that giving them the permission to fail and giving them the permissioncy to have age. I mean, these are all soft skills we're talking about. We're not sitting here talking about prompt engineering and tuning large language models. We're talking about like humane aspects of what it is to work. And that's why I go back to engagement and trust so much, is that like our issue at the moment isn't technical. Our biggest issue is people. And that's why I like to talk about AI as a mindset, not a technology.
Yeah, and I think it is different, honestly, than the past, where we have for a long time, especially in HR technology, it really has been the technology. We're shifting the way we do things because of maybe the tool. But I think people are getting a little bit lost in that trap with AI, which is like, oh, it's a co-pilot, it's a time saver, it's a this, it's a that, it's a, floor wax and a dessert topping. It's just very, very difficult for people to figure out what does it actually add and where is the actual value creation. And so I think this is actually exposing a little bit of a weak link in the HR function, where in the past, the transformation projects that were managed by HR were tied to a pretty clear set of inputs and outputs. You're going to do a performance management thing and you're going to, your inputs are going to be X and your outputs are going to be Y. And you're going to measure based on things that are within your scope of control. But what's really needed today is actual understanding of business constraints. And then targeting the energy and the innovation and the technology against those business constraints. And we have not spent the time training HR to be in the loop about or even understanding and comprehending what those business constraints are. We've never asked them to help us solve business constraints. We've asked them to execute programs. And so we really have to ask ourselves, are we being fair to HR or not? And if we want them to step up, what do we need to kind of prepare and equip them so that they can? Or who do we need to partner them with so that they can get back to having as an input, like, here is the program we need you to help us execute. But right now we're sort of leaving them hanging and saying, okay, well, we want the 30% or the X adoption rate or the whatever, without enough, like nobody knows enough to break it down into what the past programs might have looked like in prior iterations of this.
Yeah, so Meg, I'm going to go back to really quickly. I mean, we could spend the rest of the time talking about this, and we're not going to, but I mean, this goes back to crystallized intelligence for a second. Like all of those shifts that, and I laugh because I've been through them, mainframe to DOS to Windows to client server to cloud, they've all been technical shifts.
Right.
And they've really been automation plays at the most. And really now we're talking about AI as an orchestration tool, as one of your great guests that you had on recently talked about, A. And B, we're talking about the fact that an average HR person's job is about 68% hands work. So I try to break things down into hands work, heads work, and hearts work. It's 68% hands work. Of that 68% hands work, about 55% of it is what I call RAD, repeatable, auditable, and documented, which means it should go away. It should be automated. The future of HR and the function, if it exists, yes, I said that, is that humans and machines team together in those types of roles that we look at. Instead of thinking about HR looking at itself in the mirror, we're saying, how does HR look through a window and focus on business metrics, business outcomes, business metrics, and that everything we do is aligned to that. So Meg, I love what you just said. That's exactly right. We should never treat these as projects. They're ongoing, iterative programs of transformation, just like all of us are always going through as humans. And because of that, and because of that old mindset that you mentioned that a lot of people have, we're approaching these new AI programs with old mindsets, and it's not working.
That's right.
So one of the other forces, and I loved how you put this, was around, the value of AI is not in adopting it. It is about becoming the kind of organization that can embody it. And that's so critical. And I loved how you put that. And so what I'm wondering, Jason, in all of your conversations and so on, are you seeing certain organizational structures or emergence of certain roles or kinds of people that make that more of a possibility, more successful versus not?
Yeah, it's a great question, Amy. And there's a couple different, I'm going to put a couple different sides to it. There's the first side, and it's an overused slang, but it's the digital immigrant versus digital native side. The digital natives, like we were just talking in the green room about our kids, when I talk to them about a performance review process or applying for a job online, and they're like, it doesn't say jobs, it says careers. Why doesn't it say jobs? Or, my son was filling out something in his new onboarding process. He's like, why are they doing this? That first principle mindset, beginner's mindset of a digital native is so valuable right now. If we listen to them, that a lot of us need. It really, really need. So there's that component to it. But Amy, the other component to it is we need, and where I'm seeing organizations be really successful is to start these, what I'm calling AI enablement centers. And other people have called them that as well. It's not my coining. And what that is someone who really understands the power of breaking down a process into a first principle mindset and saying, let's rethink it like it doesn't exist today. And there may be pieces of it that still exist, but we're going to do it completely different with the help of AI, with that moniker of human machine teaming at the core. And if I do that, then all of a sudden what I end up with is a outcome focused process or orchestration instead of a automated process. Like spell check. I like to think of it as spell check, you guys. Before spell check, what did we do? We used a dictionary. We still have our Word document, but we didn't have spell check. Now we have AI, we've got something like spell check. But it's still, oh yeah, let's save it, then I'll email it. That's stupid. Sorry. I mean, that's old thinking that we're just automating. So these AI enablement centers, Amy, are like your question, are people that really understand this, that can really work with the business, break things down, and then say, how do we want to do it going forward? And then say, what's the technology? And all three of us as former product people know that what did we do in the past? We built modules, and we hoped that people would go to our modules as their way of doing things. We're moving into a much more bespoke world right now where people are saying that module that's not how we want to do it. And guess what? They don't have to do it that way anymore. And that's good because business is going to move much faster when it's not driven by software vendors, but it's driven by people.
So the AI Enablement Center, who is the leader of that?
It depends.
And what does that team look like? And what is a successful recipe for that?
So, for example, we're seeing a lot of organizations start to think about talent as both humans and machines. Mm-hmm. Okay? Or we're working with a couple different HR organizations where they've cut off the H. And they just said we're resources. And we manage the people resources and the machine resources. But that's more at a macro level, Amy. At a micro level, it's within HR. And it's an AI Enablement Center, which is really I'll call it a new way to think about governance.
So it's at the HR level, not the business level?
I'd love it to be at the business level, but right now what we're doing in many cases is just trying to help HR get out of its way and get started. So it should be at the business level, but right now HR is just trying to figure out, hey, are there some quick wins? Are there some areas that I can come into play with? There are business level initiatives, but Amy and Meg, you and I, or all of us know that HR isn't the top priority in companies, always. Not breaking news. So therefore, the AI Enablement Center at a business level, the first place they're pointed isn't HR.
Yeah.
But at the same time, HR is feeling immense pressure because a lot of us read the latest piece in The Economist exactly 1 month ago today that said, with the latest picture of HR being fat and the most hires out of any function and the most layoffs in any function. All that being said, we should put a link into the show notes of that. There's a lot of pressure on HR to cut costs and cut heads right now.
Right. And the reason for that in my mind is because, again, they've managed to stake out a scope of work that the business doesn't find having the right ROI. And so to your point about having these, new centers to start to think about like, okay, how do we add different value, more importantly, modern and current need value that then starts to look more like tied to investments that the business is convinced are important for overall success.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love, you guys, is I love the I love the Palantir model, the forward deployed engineer model. Yeah. And if you think about that, Amy, that's like in the AI Enablement Center, the people that would be those FDEs, that would be the new black belt. But that black belt isn't just great at process. They're great at understanding the technology combined with function and saying, how do I meet an outcome, which is business focused? For me, that's like when I get to do that with customers, like it is that's a dream job for me right now because it's switching the lens. Like it's like, it's not going one, which one's more clear? Like when you go to the eye doctor, 1, 2, 1, 2. Like this is massively different. This is like 1 or 100. Right. Which one do you want to be?
Is the AI Enablement Center helping? Are they helping like HR business partners? Are they helping employees? Are they helping what are they trying to support?
They're trying to support the change. So, when I say change, for the most part, it's going to be the function. If I take HR, it's going to be the COE that's going to stop thinking in silos and start thinking across. It's going to be the HR business partner who realizes that their job is a business partner, not a transaction partner. And it's the HR operations function, which realizes that, hey, when someone can't figure out how to use dumb self-service and you answer the question for them, guess what? That's probably not the way to keep doing it. We should probably force a change on them, whether it be through technology or force them to work with the tools they have.
Gotcha. So the AI Enablement Center, the HR AI Enablement Center is really helping the HR function to transform with AI.
Yes, and it's also, by the way, I hate to say this, but it's true. It's also helping the HRIT or the digital people within HR become up to speed on what is AI. Okay, unfortunately, there's still that group of people as a whole is still very much vendor centric, module centric, and database centric instead of thinking about quote unquote flows, processes, journeys instead of technical requirements.
Yeah, makes sense. And what about the support for the employees and for leaders in terms of making the organization ready for AI? What are you seeing there?
Amy, I am seeing two schools. I'm seeing the school that's saying go learn on your own or you're not going to have a job. I'm seeing the other school, which is, and I'm not saying that's good, but I'm also not saying it's bad because I'm not actually sure that I believe that there's two different types of readiness when it comes to AI for employees, education and training. Okay, I believe education is mindset, risk, compliance, things like that. Training requires the employee to actually do. Okay, but this isn't going to a class. This isn't taking a old school CBT, like I rolled out like Windows for Dummies and how to click here to get it to do something. But I guess Amy, really quickly, I'm on the fence on this one. I mean, you've heard of FAFO, fool around and find out.
Oh yeah. Or some other F word.
Or some other F word like friend. But all that, like, we have to figure out how we give employees the opportunities to learn and experience. We need to provide them a stage. This isn't something they get trained on, and we're going to keep them in a holding tank, and all of a sudden we're going to set them out there, and they're like, oh, cool, we're ready. Like, They actually need to FAFO when it comes to this stuff. And that's where, for me, if people don't have the agency to FAFO, they're probably going to find themselves on the way out.
So I have a provocative one here. I feel like we need to think about how do we invest in unlearning probably more than skill development. Because letting go of how we do things today is probably our bigger barrier than building awareness of a future state. It's at the top order of making yourself do something in a different way when you have so much lived experience to say that the way you do it is the right way, the best way, the most efficient way, whatever.
Like, I would take an open mind like that over someone that has a fixed mindset and maybe knows a skill all day long. Because this is only picking up speed from an exponential, not incremental standpoint. So just one-time unlearning is not going to do me any good.
That's true.
It's going to be an ongoing cycle of innovation here that if I don't have the right people and the right mindsets, both at a leadership level and at an individual level, and I have HR focusing on helping me with that, which, by the way, goes back to our first point, which was engagement and trust. I need to actually trust them and trust them that they're going to move me and bring me along instead of like IT rolling out how to talk to a prompt. Like, that is one of the biggest disconnects today.
So all three of us have kids that are in the early career phase, whether they're in it or they're about to be in it. So this whole idea of the early career on-ramp being broken is near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah, getting kids off the payroll is top of mind.
And so, Jason, I think, what's really interesting, and maybe a lot of people don't even know this about you, is that you've been doing a lot of college work. You've been teaching college students in your very limited spare time. I don't know how you do it. And you've been focused a lot on this kind of like, well, how do we change the educational trajectory in order to make the career on-ramp actually work? So I'd love to chat about that a little bit in terms of what you're seeing and where you think we should be going.
So really quickly, like I have to immerse myself in something to truly be able to talk about it. And good or bad, that's just how I am. So why I'm doing combinator work and why I'm doing education work is I'm trying to watch what it takes for someone who's 18 to 24 years old to enter the workforce at a somewhat state of readiness, whatever we might call that state of readiness. And at the same time, I'm watching what what we all did when we hired people, which was let's have them apply for a job online. Let's hope that the ATS gets back to them. Let's hope that a recruiter might get back to them and get us the information. My current employer sends me a PowerPoint of the top 8 candidates instead of giving me access to the HR tool, which is a whole different discussion for a different day. And at the end of the day, I get on the phone and I look for 2 things. I look for, 3 things: team, trust, and passion. I look for the ability to work together as a team. I look for the ability to look someone in the eye and say, can I trust you? And I look for passion.
And that's always been true, right? I mean,
it's always been true. But the next thing underneath that, and maybe even before they got to me, was do they have a degree? And where was that degree from? And what's happened in the last 5 years is that it's even hard for me to say. It really doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay. Now, it matters for other things. Okay. So when I say it doesn't matter, I'm not, please no one say, Jason says degrees don't matter, or college, college doesn't matter, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying from an entry-level job standpoint, as I'm watching 18, 19, including my kids, who are a little bit different because they've had to deal with me, be ready and actually go to a combinator program and say, guess what? Now I have a job and I'm 20 and I'm 2 years ahead of my 22-year-old peers who are still learning about poetry when I'm going to be not a poet, et cetera, et cetera. All of a sudden I find myself in the career space of my life in a completely different space. I'm 2 years ahead. I've got proof of work. I'm gaining proof of work every single day. I'm working with tools. And all of a sudden I have someone 2 years behind me come out and say, I'm going to go on the ATS and apply for a job. They don't have proof of work. They have proof of education. And that's a massive difference.
Getting the proof of work is hard now, though, right? Because there's so few entry level opportunities because they're being automated away, right? How are you helping to construct, or how do you see helping to construct the proof of work in that landscape?
So my class that starts January 3rd, 2026, is all about this. It's all about how to build proof of work without a job.
Nice.
Love that.
Okay.
That's so
Which
cool.
means, and you guys are doing it right here. I mean, not saying you don't have jobs, but I mean, you're doing a podcast. You are actually you're putting out content. When someone Googles your name, they don't see a picture of beer cans in a pyramid in your Instagram post. Maybe with you, Amy, they find something else that shows proof of work. By the way, I was with someone just last week who's built 5 apps and put them in the App Store. Mm-hmm. They're 18. Okay, they have no idea how to code, but they did this with a tool called Create Anything. Okay, so their proof of work is there. They're creating proof of work in that specific space. Now, by the way, that's not if you want to be a nurse.
Right.
This is tied to very certain jobs.
Right.
Okay, and there are still certain jobs that require certificates and degrees that you can't do this with. But in the business space, which is marketing, finance, those types of jobs, if you're just going to a 4-year degree and maybe doing 1 or 2 internships for 2 summers, your chance of getting a job in 2025 and 2026 is very, very small. Okay? And you don't know how to network, it's very, 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 very small. Okay? A real life example, I asked people to connect with me on LinkedIn in a college group that I was talking to a couple weeks ago. Out of the 84 people that were there, 7 did. So I was pissed. And I actually said to them, I'm like, why do you not connect with me? They're like, we already have your phone number.
Really?
And I was like, okay, I am handing you a network of 50,000 people.
Right.
Of chefs, lawyers, CEOs, doctors, et cetera, et cetera. You know how to get a hold of me. That's not why you connect with me on LinkedIn, to get a hold of me. You're connecting with me on LinkedIn to access my network. And you guys, I get really passionate about this. This is what I'm teaching. This is what I want us to teach in schools. I want them to teach this about how do you find a job, not, okay, well, you should work on your resume. Or you know what I mean? And that's school education is behind what's happening in real life right now. And it's a disservice to our children. And we're paying a lot of money for it. So to me, you guys, proof of work is really important. Networking is really important. And then the third thing that I would say is that we as a country have to figure out how to be better at apprenticeships. It's something that I'm going to work on in 2026 in a number of different ways. And that's not saying I need an 8-week something to do for my summer. And oh, by the way, I'll have them go get me coffee and, that's going to be cool. They'll get to wear khakis and a polo shirt and understand what it's like to work. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're actually talking about doing work while you're going to school. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, and by the way, I want to go back to something I said. There is a social aspect of college that is very, very valuable. And I'm not putting that down. How to build your own network, how to make your own bed, how to do your laundry. I completely get all that stuff. I only went to school at night because I implemented payroll during the day. But all that being said, I think there's value in it from a social standpoint, but I think we have to rethink what we do from an entry-level job standpoint, because as companies today, if I don't hire college grads, I'm cutting off a talent pipeline for the future of growth. Okay. And if all of a sudden I say the thing that I hired them for are jobs that are replaced now by AI, so I don't need them, I'm doing a terrible disservice. Those companies are going to end up like Blockbuster Video in about 10 years.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking the other day, it feels to me we've completely misunderstood what we need early talent for right now. I think we need them in the present to help us reimagine what work should look like, because they are coming in with a very different lived experience than we have. I do think we could benefit a lot from more challenge partners who will ask us why, and who will ask us these evocative questions of hey, I have your phone number. I know how to get a hold of you. Why would I connect with you over there? I think that is where creativity and innovation truly come from. And so when I think about diversity, I think we need diversity literally of age, and not to say, oh, we need only young people because young people are smarter. We need to get together those of us that have been around for a long time with early talent, and we need to do that very intentionally.
And Amy and Meg, I'm going to say something. You and I, the three of us, were lucky enough to share office space together at 4460 Hacienda.
That's right.
And, we were probably the young digital natives of that day. And we were blessed to work with very, very good leaders who let us raise our hands and let us have agency and let us challenge the status quo. And there were days we felt like assholes. And there were days we felt like idiots because we were challenging a bunch of people that were around forever. But that is the same thing, Meg. We as leaders have to let those people in, and we have to realize that we need them. So it's a leadership discussion as much as it is a building the first rung of HR's job. HR's job should be to restructure that first rung, but it's a leader's job also to say, guys, I'm not going to have them get my coffee. I'm not going to have them do XYZ. I want you to come in and challenge me to make us better, to make us different, and to bring that bring that different perspective. And that's where I think there's a huge opportunity for kids our kids' age if they'll do that. But they have to have guts, because guess what? They don't have the wisdom.
That's right. That's right. And they're going to be wrong about a lot of things, but they're also going to spark new ideas much more effectively than those of us that are just trying to retrench things that we think we know.
I mean, the best tip I give you guys is don't go through the interview process. Find out who you're supposed to be interviewing with, send them an email with a video that talks about why you want to work there before you ever interview. You're going to skip right to the front of the line because you broke a process.
That's awesome.
That's what people want today. They want to see that agency. One of the things I think that is so important with what we're talking about with those people challenging us as HR leaders is we've been doing stuff in HR for a long time. We still do once a year performance reviews. Why? Because of unions, even though I don't have unions anymore. We still do once every year engagement surveys. Why? Because of the mail, even though I don't focus on the mail anymore. In a world of inference and in a world of intent, I don't even need that stuff. So I guess along those same lines, Meg, as you're talking about someone coming in new to challenge, not just challenging us as to how do we get our job done in HR, but why do we do the things we do in HR? These people that don't know any different, Meg, are going to be that unlock for us. And if we combine them with the technology we have today, I think that gets us to a place that we've probably not explored in the last 30, 40 years.
So what I love about this is it's bringing together the intersection of all the things we've always cared about. Diversity, but expanding the definition of diversity to context and different experience levels in different lived experiences. And so I've always believed that this moment is a moment of innovation. It is a moment of change, but change driven by thinking differently and doing differently. And I think for us to be able to see that, we need to bring together people who don't have the baggage with people who deeply understand the business and the needs of the business. And this is a great moment for both the intersection of early talent and experienced talent. And so when we talk about those innovation centers, I think we want to think about not just innovation centers around AI, but innovation across. And so I really want to come back to one key point, which is the Amy Wilson transformation framework, where Amy has built a model to help us think about how transformation needs to happen. And a big piece of that transformation framework is really where the unlock of innovation is tied to the co-creation of the new workflows. So maybe, Amy, you could help tie this all together for us about how do we need these new workflows co-created, both within HR and across business.
The AI transformation maturity model, there's the very basic part, which is just getting people starting to FAFO. Is that what you said? The FAFO? And then the, kind of the most basic, did I say it
I've
right?
never heard actually someone try to say it. I just say FAFO. But the fact that you said FAFO, I'm like, oh, interesting. It sounds like something I might
We're
get.
innovators here, Jason.
Yeah, exactly. I get that at the
baseline.
convenience store. The FAFO.
But then the first step above that is to start to optimize individual tasks, right? And then the next one is to really optimize existing workflows. So taking multiple tasks, multiple steps, multiple bits, and reconfiguring workflows. All of those steps are really just in service of getting to unlocking what's possible. It's really about building that muscle, because if all you do is task optimization, you're just in this endless cycle of efficiency, and it's really a road to nowhere. But the real unlock is when you start to look at reinventing, imagining new workflows. And the only way that you can do that is if you bring people together to co-create it. And to Meg's point, that is people that know the domain deeply, and it is people that think out of the box and really don't know so much about the domain. And so being able to bring that kind of diversity together to innovate for the future. So I was wondering, Jason, are you seeing any kind of hopeful signs of that maturity model starting to take effect?
Yeah, Amy, I love it. And just so you know, I mean, I'm just going to say it a little bit different in the way that I talk about it. I talk about 4 sets, and the 4 sets are mindset, heart set, skill set, and tool set. Okay, mindset, what do I want to actually get done? Heart set, how do I bring people along with me? Skill set, what are the things I need to understand in the domain I need? And the tool sets, or what's the tech, or what's the capability I need to do that? When you put all those ingredients together, you get a menu item. And that menu item equals that outcome that you're trying to achieve that has true demonstrable value. So, yes to everything you just said. Now, where are people on that journey? Those enablement centers I talked about are those innovation centers. To bring those 4 sets together, they require bringing together people from different functions. When I take those 4 sets and bring them together, that's when I can really see demonstrable or demonstrable change. Our biggest challenge is the silos of how we've worked today. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, instead of buying software, I believe that we'll be orchestrating flows. Okay? And those orchestration of flows, they will need software. So it doesn't mean the end of software, but what it means is we start with the flow and then we use software instead of starting with the software and hope we get flow.
I love that. I love that. Well, I think that is a perfect way to end this amazing podcast. Thank you so much, Jason, for making time for us. We are loving having a conversation with you. And we really do love the fact that you're putting out into the world the criticality of HeartSet as well, because I think we cannot lose our humanity in this future that we're building together. It has to be at core because we need each other in this. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and Megan, Amy, I just want to thank you for having me again. And I'm going to say something that I said a few minutes ago, only in a different way. Like, you guys were huge parts of my development in life. Sharing that floor, the 4th floor at 4460 with you guys as young minds. And I would name a bunch of other names also.
It was a really special time.
It was a really special time. And if you think about all of those people that were on that floor and what they're doing today to shape our space, and if I take all the way back to the Ro Henson of the world, who was probably responsible for creating all of that, it kind of brings joy to my heart. So it's really cool to do this with you guys.
Everything began at PeopleSoft.
That's right. That's right. Yes, we have a lot to be grateful for. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And much love. Have a great holiday.
Ready to Leadership Corner, Meg?
I do love a good leadership corner. Let's do this thing.
All right. I was recently promoted and asked to merge another department into mine. The incoming team has had 3 leaders in 5 years and has had significant culture, trust, and capability issues. I'm now managing 2 very different cultures, my high-performing team that I hired and a legacy team with skill gaps, morale issues, and a damaged reputation. What are your top tips for navigating cultural repair and performance resets when merging teams like this?
Well, first off, congratulations on the recent promotion and the belief that the organization has in you that you can help this team feel connected and empowered and growing. So start there. Like, really remind yourself that you were chosen for this job because people believe in you. What I strongly recommend is that you do need to start with a true appreciation for what this team has gone through and for where they are, both emotionally and readiness. Go in with an open mind that assumes that the problems have been systems problems created by leadership, not worker problems created by bad people.
Giving the benefit of the doubt every time. That is so important. I think that it's really key that when you're meeting with each individual, and it's so important to meet with each individual multiple times on an individual basis, and to communicate that it is your intention to be there for them in the long term. It's just so important to give them that psychological safety that you're here to stay, that you care, and that you're going to make it work with them.
Do the listening tour. Spend some time listening to people, asking their advice. What things do you think are going well and what things you think are important and not happening to help them do their best work. Investing in connecting the dots between what you're going to be asking of them and who they are as people and what they feel they're most capable of doing. So really figuring out what inspires them when they talk about their work. Where are they proud of their achievements? How do they show up and when they're their best selves? And then figure out how you can build a structure around maximizing that.
Have them share with you what they believe they're good at, what they believe they can contribute. Really start to understand what they believe in themselves so that you can have a better sense of how you can best leverage them from a team dynamic perspective and ultimately from a performance perspective as well. But it's so important that that comes from them. The other thing is that I think that it's going to be important to not just create a strong individual support and team support for the new team, but to actually meld the two teams together. So it's not an us versus them and, that sort of thing.
You just reminded me that oftentimes when I've taken on new teams, I have people take the Strength Finder test. That helps ground the understanding, a shared understanding of what specific strengths they're bringing to the table. And it also, I've never had anybody take that didn't feel good about having their strengths articulated to them, which I think is, again, a really nice foundation for building a trusted relationship.
The Strengths Finder is fantastic. And then the other thing, depending on how well people know each other, it's nice to have people talk about what other people are good at. So, it might be hard for somebody to say, oh, I'm good at this, but it might be easy for them to say, oh, well, Meg is really good at X. And Meg could say, well, Amy's really good at Y.
The second thing is you're going to need a different and a more effective communication strategy because you're going to need to invest in communicating your plans, your goals, and all of these things in a different way than you've had to do with your existing team. We all get a little bit comfortable when we've been working with people that understand us and are already killing it at their work. So this is a good opportunity for you to come back to first principles and figure out how to build that communication engine that helps people feel connected to what they are doing with you and how they are achieving great things. You got to celebrate small wins as you progress because it's those early flywheels of change that are the hardest. And so you need to invest in really good systems of discovery that show you that people are sparking in the direction you need them to spark so that you can build upon momentum, because what you're working right now is the lack of momentum, and it's the momentum that you need that can kind of help drive that shift to high functioning. Be kind to yourself. This is a long game. It doesn't change overnight. But it is worth doing.
Well, congratulations. And yeah, you've got a lot to, but this is the best of leadership. This is fun stuff.
You get to make a difference in people's lives.
You get to make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be massively beneficial for them and frankly for you because you get a lot out of it, as Amy was saying. So yeah, congratulations. All right, Amy, loved this episode. Excited about finally finishing our roster of guests for this season. So thank you so much for going on this journey. Let's invent the future together, everyone. I believe in us.
Make every day count.